Hey friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for stopping in today. I'm back with a new layout for Shimmerz Paints, and I'm going to be using a lot of really pretty Shimmerz colors today. And this layout is what I call made from scratch, which means I'm just going to start with some plain cardstock and start to build a mixed media background and then go from there. I'm not going to use any specific pattern papers or anything like that. It's just going to be some random things. So the first thing I'm going to do is come in with white gesso, and my first thought was that I wanted to create some sort of vertical background. So I'm going to scrape some white gesso basically in the center of the layout or the paper from top to bottom. Use my finger to kind of smudge the edges so it looks a little more cloudy and hazy around the edges and not so like I used a brush to scrape it on. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about there. Okay, do you remember this stencil? I've had this stencil in my stash for years. I mean, I don't even remember the year that I bought this. I've had that thing 8-10 years. It was probably one of the first stencils I ever bought, and look how many times I've used it. It is well worn. I'm going to use this with some modeling paste, which is almost dried up, and I actually got way too much there. It's starting to dry out. I've had that little container for quite a while. I need to go to Michael's as soon as I'm available to do that, or as soon as it's open, I guess I should say, and get some more supplies because things are getting old. Anyway, I'm just using a palette knife to scrape it down, and what this is going to do is give me some really fun, bumpy, rough texture in the shape of all these lines of little circles. And the modeling paste is going to dry white. It's going to dry really textured on top of the cardstock, and so when it dries, you rub your hand over it, it's going to be really rough to the touch. You can kind of see what it looks like there. So now I've got a blank canvas to work with, and my first thought was I was going to challenge myself to create a monochromatic layout and only use blues and greens, and so that's where we're going to start here. All the colors, I'm going to tell you the ones I'm using here. These are Shimmerz original formulas, and they're called Shimmerz. So if you look in the shop, that's what they're called. This gorgeous color is called Ultramarine, and it is the prettiest, shimmeriest blue. This one here is an Inklingz, and it's one of my favorite Inklingz. It's called Blue Lagoon, and it is so aqua and so beautiful. If you're an aqua fan and you don't have Blue Lagoon Inklingz, you need it in your life because it's so pretty. And all I'm doing here is adding some color to the background, spritzing it with water, using the brush, and just kind of letting the water help the paint to spread, and it's just going to do its thing all by itself. This one is another Shimmerz original formula, and it's called Tickle Turquoise. Beautiful, beautiful blue color. And I love using all these different shades pretty much in the same family because they all are going to blend together nicely, and they're going to create new colors when they mix together. And I love how you can see the modeling paste and all that texture through the color. And this really is an easy background to make because the products and the colors just sort of do it for you. Whenever you add water and just tilt the paper, it's going to do its thing. You can kind of see here that this really is not complicated. It looks complicated, but it's pretty simple to do. I'm going to come back in with the Ultramarine, and I'm just going to keep playing with the background and kind of continue to add color. I'm not going to cover up the entire space where the gesso is, so you're still going to be able to see some of the white around the edges, but the gesso is what is allowing all of this liquid to sit on top of the paper. It sort of acts as a barrier between all the liquid and the color and the paper. And this is really cool too. If you have a heat tool, sometimes I like to do this. The heat coming out of the heat tool is sort of blowing the color around. And so this is another way to mix the colors because the more you move the heat tool around, you turn the page this way and that way, it's going to start to dry it and push it around, and then you get a cool effect like this. And so far, so good. I'm really, really loving this. I think it's really pretty. But we're not done. We're going to come in and add some more colors. This is a green color. This is a Shimmerz, and it's called Celery. and it is a very pretty springy green. And I thought I would just add in a couple of green areas here and there. It's going to be pretty subtle, but I like how that color looks with all of these other blues. And that's what I like about Shimmerz, is it's fun to just experiment like this and blend different colors together. This is another Shimmerz original, and it's called It's Meant to Be, and it's pretty much the exact same color as the cardstock. You can see there, you can't really see it because it is very minty, very light, but oh so sparkly and shimmery. All of the original Shimmerz formula, super shimmery when it's dry. It's almost like ground up glitter is in there. So beautiful. The Inklingz are more of a, they're shimmery, but not like a glittery shimmer, if that makes sense. Okay, so my background's done for now. I've got these two pictures of my daughter from the pool, and I love how the colors sort of go with this background perfectly. And I'm going to try to arrange the photos on the right hand side since she's kind of looking to the left. And when I put the pictures on there, I realized that I wanted some more of the blue lagoon on there. I wanted more aqua, that deep aqua color, or teal, I guess you could call it. So I'm going to come back in with the blue lagoon and just add that in a couple more spots. And again, I'm doing the same technique, just adding some of the color, adding some water, spreading it around. If it's too much, you can dilute it more with water, or you can use a napkin or a paper towel to kind of dab some of it up, and that's going to lighten it up for you. But yeah, I spend a lot of time on these backgrounds, especially one like this, so I don't film the entire process because it did take me a while, but you do get the idea of what I'm doing here. I like to add some splatters. I don't go too splatter crazy here, but I do add a little bit of the blue lagoon in a couple spots. And I don't think I've used several of these colors in quite a while, so I wanted to use some colors that I hadn't used in a while. So at this point, this is where I decided the monochromatic was not going to work completely, so I'm going to add in some more colors. I'm going to go with this stencil here, and this is one of Paige Evans' exclusive stencils, and it's called Sunburst Rays, and I'm just using some scrap cardstock here. I'm going to make a sun. This color is Vibez Mustard Seed, one of my most favorite yellow golden colors, and then this is Vibez Rollin' in the Hay. And I hadn't used it in so long that my nozzle got clogged, so I had to run to the sink. All I had to do was sort of pull the little nozzle part, run it under some hot water, and it unclogged it right away, and so now it's good as new. So if you ever have a clog, there is a way to fix it. Don't throw it away. And it's kind of a brownish golden color. Now I like how that looks, but I loved how all the color looked on the stencil, so I just decided to flip the stencil over and kind of use it as a stamp. And then I roll my paper towel roll over it to kind of smush it down. And I love how that looks. I like how that looks better than the first one. I just like how messy and runny it looks. I like the different color streaks in there from the Rollin' in the Hay, and I like how the edges are not perfect. See how that one's more of a perfect, and I still like that one, don't get me wrong, but this one just sort of jumped out at me. So I'm going to cut this out. And no, I did not wait for it to dry. I should have, because my paper was kind of wilty, but I was excited the way it looked, so I just got to cutting. Yes, wait for your paper to dry. It didn't tear anything, but it was it was drooping around. Okay, so look how cool that sun looks. I just love that. It's so wonky and crooked and random. I love it. So I'm going to make this sunshine work because, I don't know, I'm addicted to having sunshines on pool layouts lately, so we're going to have a sunshine. Okay, so I wanted to tone it down just slightly. It was a little too yellow for what I was wanting, so I'm just going to smudge some white gesso over it. It's just going to soften it up just a little bit, but you're still going to get the colors. I am going to lose a little bit of the shimmer on the sun because I'm covering it up with some gesso, but that's okay. I was mainly going for the color, so it depends. You know, if you want to go for the shimmer, then definitely don't use the gesso on top of it. Now here's where we get real creative. Okay, I am not very good at drawing flowers, but I was just in the mood to make some flowers. And so I got out a stencil that has some hibiscus on it. I don't know if you can see it over to the right. And I just tried to wing it. I said, let's just go for it and let's just draw some flowers and see how they turn out. And I'm going to add lots of pink to this layout. Again, there goes the monochromatic idea. Okay, so this row of colors that I've got here, let's see. Most of these are Inklingz. I've got Lover's Lips, which is a reddish color. I've got Plum Crazy, which is the purple color. Naughty or Nice, which is another reddish pink, more on the reddish side. A Rose by Any Other Name is a lighter pink. And Hot Stuff, which is more of a deeper pink. And I'm just gonna go for all of these and add some water, use my napkin, and just sort of paint these flowers by hand here. I wasn't sure how they were going to turn out because I'm not one to freehand flowers. Usually, if I have like a die cut or something that will cut it out, that's one thing. But drawing them, but in the end, I think they turned out okay. And they definitely, speak clearly, look wonky, which I like wonky. So I think they turned out pretty cute. So what I found as I was coloring these is that they were a little too on the red side. So I pulled out 2 sprays that are a little more on the brighter pink side to just dab some on there. I've got Coloringz Pretty in Pink and Vibez Sweetheart. Coloringz do not have any shimmer to them at all. They're just flat color, whereas Vibez are definitely shimmery when they dry. They have different colors of powder in them depending on the color, so you're going to get lots of shimmer. So these are dry. Now I'm going to cut them out, and I think they turned out kind of pretty considering I'm definitely not a pro flower maker. I need to watch some YouTube videos on how to draw flowers because I know I can get better at it. I just don't do it enough. But I think when I'm able to cut them out, I can kind of cut them to make them look a little more shapely. So I'm loving how these look. They're nice and shimmery. The Inklingz, like I said, have a really pretty shimmer once they're dry. And yeah, now the problem I ran into was they all look the same color. So I pulled out the Vibez Pink Moscato, which is a deep pink, and added that to one of them just to kind of give them a little bit of a different color variation. And then I'm going to take some white acrylic paint and just sort of paint around the edges and do a little bit of smudging just to give a little bit of texture and dimension. And man, my hands got so messy making this layout, but that's okay. I'm used to it. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty when you're making mixed media things, because this layout was all about making a mess, let me tell you. I was starting to question what was I thinking at this point. Next up, we're going to fussy cut some clouds. I don't know, I've been on a cloud kick lately. Again, this is just a random sheet of cardstock. As you can see, I've already cut into it. It's almost used up. I always save my little random chunks of cardstock for instances just like this. All right, so let's see how these clouds look. I think they look cute. We have sort of a sky. Now we have a sun. We need some clouds. And then here we're going to play around with the flowers and let's see how these look. I wasn't sure they were even going to work, but I'm going to layer some in, tuck some under, and just see how it looks. Now I love these colors together. I love any shade of blue, any shade of yellow, and any shade of pink. Those are my 3 go-to colors. They just always look pretty together. This is my edge distresser. I'm going to just kind of ruffle up the edges of the clouds. And I kind of like how this is looking, considering I'm just kind of making it from cardstock. Okay, this is a gray color. It's called Gray Flannel, and it's a Vibez. And I'm just going to lightly rub the edges with the nozzle around the edges of the clouds, and just use my fingers again to kind of smudge a little bit of gray, just to kind of give them some dimension so they're not so flat white. I don't want them to look like storm clouds, but I wanted to give them a little bit of shadowing and just a little bit of something on them. All right, so I took a break. I added a little piece of adhesive foam behind the middle of, or the center of the sun, and went ahead and glued the sun down. So that is where that's going to go. I'm going to pop up the clouds, and I'm going to use adhesive foam for that. And I want some of the clouds to be on top of the sun, and then the one cloud on the left, I want it to be under the sun. Again, just to create some depth. And then we're going to get to working on the rest of the page. I'm still having a fight with my ATG gun, so it's been dismantled and we're not speaking right now. So I'm just going to use glue to glue everything down. I'm going to add a little bit of tissue paper behind the photos there, and I'm going to overlap the pictures like that. Since I've got a lot of open space on the left side of the page, I felt like it was okay to overlap the top photo a lot on top of the bottom photo. And I put the bottom photo on the bottom because she's looking in toward the layout, and I wanted that effect to where it looks like she's looking into the page. And I'm just going to start to glue things down, see about placement of certain things. I like how the flowers look. Okay, now we're going to do some stamping. This is a Heidi Swapp summer stamp set. I forgot I had it. I found it. I was digging around in a bag of stuff and I found it hadn't even been opened yet. I thought, what is wrong with me? Get that out and use it. It's got flowers on it, so we're going to go with it. These are two little ink pads from Pink Fresh Studio. I wanted to add a little bit of orange. So I got two of these little mini ink pads, and I'm just going to stamp two different sized flowers in shades of orange. Again, on scrap cardstock. That's what I had left of the cloud paper. And then I'm going to cut these out. So yeah, there's lots of fussy cutting going on this layout. Stamping and then cutting out the image. That is a great way to make your own embellishments. So yeah, if you don't mind fussy cutting, dig out your stamps and create your own little bits and pieces there. All right, so I thought I would jazz up some of these flowers by adding some stencils. So I pulled stencils. How about sequins, right? Let's get the product name correct. These are sequins, geez, from Spiegel Mom's Scraps. I have a big collection of her stencils, which are gorgeous, and they always match perfectly. And so I just added some of those to the centers of these flowers, and I think that just sets them off and makes them pop. And then we're going to start to slowly glue some things down here. I'm liking how it's looking. I'm really enjoying this. At this point in the layout, I was excited and I felt like it was coming together and working nicely. I'm going to go ahead and pop up the photos again with some adhesive foam. And that's just some kids' craft foam. You can find it at Walmart or Michael's. It's easy to cut. It's the perfect height. And now before I glue the photos down, I'm going to come in with some thread. And I first thought I was going to add an aqua color, but when I put it down there, I could not even see it. It wound up looking exactly like the background. It blended in too much, so there was really no point in using that color. So I decided to try a hot pink color, and I really loved how that turned out. I think it looks great because it's a little bit different pink than the pink in the flowers. Since the flowers turned out a little bit lighter, that dark pink thread pops, and it gives a nice pop of that color. So I'm going to do another bit of pink. I felt like I couldn't see enough of it, so I'm just going to add another little tangle loop of that. And then I'm going to add some more pink thread up in the top behind that big pink flower. And I'm actually about to use an entire roll of thread. There goes my pink. I use a lot of pink. All right, so now I'm ready to glue things down. So I'm going to very carefully start to glue things down. And I'm using the Scotch Tacky Glue. It does not come in that bottle. The bottle is sold separately, and you can find those at Hobby Lobby or online on Amazon. But yeah, here's what I've got so far. I love the texture. I love how flowers just naturally curl up. Yeah, awesome. Really, really liking how this is looking. Okay, so here's where I went to my shelf and just started looking for random things. And I found the You Are Here collection from Simple Stories. I think it's from 2016. And I found a couple things that I wanted to use. I like this orange polka dot frame. I felt like that added a little something something over there to the right. I found these clear white stickers, and I thought about sticking them around the clouds since they would be kind of a subtle thing up in the top part, but I don't know. I stuck them there and then I wound up taking them off. I just was like, these just look like floating words. Didn't like that. I tried sticking it on top of the picture, but I felt like it was a distraction. So those are going to move here. I'm going to go simple with the title. It's just going to be Pool Party. And these are some very shiny gold thickers. So I'm going to tone down the brassy factor with, surprise, surprise, white gesso. Just smudge some down with your finger and it's going to basically make a more of a matte finish. Still going to be shiny, still going to look gold, but it's just going to not blind you with the goldness. Sometimes that gold is so bright that it's just, when it hits the light, it's just too much for me. So I'm going to add another flower over to the bottom right of the title. Just, I felt like I wanted to bring some more of that down, and I had one extra flower, or two extra flowers, I think. Here's where I'm going to add some gold. Since my title was gold, I thought I'd do a little bit of gold splattering. This is one of my favorite gold shimmers, and it's a minor, or it's called Minor 49er, and it's an Inklingz. All right, we're almost done here. I'm going to add in a couple lines for journaling, and I'm going to use my metallic gold pen. And then I'm going to add, here's the other flower I was talking about. I'm going to stick one little piece of it underneath there by the word pool, and then I'm going to use some of these Nuvo drops to add dots to the other small flowers. And then I added the date, and that's it. That is the final layout. Finally, 22 minutes later. This layout took me 3 days to finally get finished. I hope you guys got some ideas from it. There's my wonky flower. You can still see my pencil lines on it. I didn't even erase it, but I think it adds character. This was really fun to make. I really do enjoy making a layout just straight out of cardstock. Shimmers are so much fun to use. I love them dearly. They are my favorite mixed media sprays and paints to use, and you can really come up with some fun things. Oh yeah, I did take those white stickers off and I stuck them on the bottom of the photo. I don't know if you saw that there, but it's real subtle. But here's all the textures, all the colors. I'm going to list all the colors that I use down below. Yeah, I love that bumpy modeling paste texture. Yeah, this was fun to make. I hope you guys liked it. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching.